What's up guys? Hi and welcome to Uncle Scott's Kitchen. Today we have a big review of this guy. This is a Chefman 4.5 quart jumbo size deep fryer. We are going to cook some jalapeno poppers, some hand breaded, hand dipped chicken tenders, Mancave style chicken wings, some beer battered onion rings, and some hand-cut french fries. Put this guy through its paces, run through its stats and features, and see if this is a good fryer for your money. Who knows? Let's jump in and get started. Okay, now I'm calling this video the Chefman Redemption. Why is that? This is actually my second Chefman unit. If you've been around the channel for a while, you know that I got one of these in several months ago, and throughout this video you may see different hair lengths, beards, and or belly sizes. But I got one of these in a couple of months ago, and the doggone thing conked out after the first time I used it. I got mine on Amazon and I paid about $70 for it. And thank goodness for good Amazon customer service. I got on there, I got a return ticket, dropped this thing off at Kohl's. Why does anybody go to Kohl's? Around here, I go to Kohl's because that's where you drop off Amazon returns. Now, I'll put up a link to that first video I did if you want to see some of the problems with that first unit. But thankfully, this second unit, this replacement unit, has been mechanically sound so far. So I like that. At a high level here, this unit has some great features, and it has some features that I don't like very much. So it's kind of a mixed bag. It might be a great fryer for some people, maybe not for others. So we'll touch on all those points as we go and do all the cooking. So if you're unfamiliar with immersion deep fryers, here's how they work in a nutshell. They typically have a hollow outer casing or housing. Into that housing, you place the oil hopper. And when you're ready to cook, you fill up to the fill line. You fill that oil hopper with your cooking oil. Then you place the heating element. You seat it on the back, and the heating element goes down into the oil, immersed in the oil, hence being an immersion fryer. You hook up a magnetic power cord. Now I realize that these magnetic power cords, it's somewhat of a safety issue. If someone were to accidentally bump the fryer or trip over one of these, it would disconnect and not pull a fryer off the counter and spill searing hot oil. However, I'm going to point out that a power cord this long on my countertop, the odds of someone tripping over that and spilling any oil are relatively low, perhaps not zero. It has a basket, pretty good sized basket here. You get quite a bit of food in there. Tip, don't overcrowd your basket when you deep fry. Has a lid with a vent and a little charcoal filter. And I got a few problems with this lid, which we'll get into here in a few minutes when we start cooking. Also has two power lights. The unit does not have a dedicated on-off switch. I don't understand this. It may be a safety issue, but I've noticed not only on this fryer, lots of deep fryers don't have on-off switches. Either with something like a Fry Daddy, if you plug it in, it's on. With this one, you plug it in, you have to turn the timer as a timer. In the selectable thermostat, the way you turn the unit on is once it's plugged in, you turn the timer on. When the timer runs down to 0, the unit shuts off. So I do see that there may be some advantages from a safety standpoint in the way these things work, but I would still like to have a dedicated on-off switch as well. Maybe it's just me. It has a power light, orange power light, lights up when the unit is on. Then it has a green light that shows when the unit is heating. A couple points here. That green light, it almost appears orange when it's lit up, so it doesn't actually appear green. It just has a little green cover on there, but it doesn't really appear green. The green light comes on as the unit is heating. It says heating there by the green light, and then the green light turns off when the unit is ready to cook. To me, this is slightly counterintuitive. At a stoplight, green means go. I almost think that the light should turn green when you're ready to go, when you're ready to start frying your food. But then again, as my wife often points out, no one asked me. Okay, so we're gonna fry some food, maybe gain a few pounds here. My wife is usually on me about eating all this fried food. I have to tell her, honey, this is my job, this is work, I have to do it. Seriously though, this is gonna be fresh fried food. Nothing is coming in frozen. We're going to use fresh ingredients and make some delicious fried food here. And honestly, I gotta say, I may have a little bit of a belly, but do you want to take fryer and fried food advice from a skinny person? No, you don't. What do they know? Okay, so let's jump in and do a little cooking. Let's start with the jalapeno poppers. Jump right in here. What we're going to do is take some jalapenos. I've got a dozen. I usually get a couple extra, so 12 or 14 jalapenos. And what I'm doing is making sure I wash them, clean them up, split them, scrape the seeds out with a spoon. Word of friendly advice here: when you work with jalapenos, especially jalapeno seeds, wear gloves because that oil will get on your fingers, that searing oil. I wear contact lenses. One time I worked with some jalapenos without gloves on. I washed my hands. 4 or 5 hours later, I washed my hands again and took my contact lenses out. There was still enough of that oil on my fingertips to essentially pepper spray myself. So I seared my own eyeballs. Don't want to do that. Second point of advice here is you may want to parboil your jalapenos just a little bit. If you're under 25, no big deal. If you're from 25 to 40, parboil them for 2 minutes or so. And for people over 40, I would go ahead and parboil those things for about 3 minutes. I parboiled these and took them out of the boiling water and put them in some ice water to stop the cooking. But that parboiling, it softens them up just a little bit and really does make them a little bit easier on the old digestive tract. And then I'm going to fill these with a mixture of cream cheese and cheddar cheese, a little salt and pepper. And here you can kind of add any other thing you like. I add a shake of red pepper, cayenne pepper here. Sometimes jalapenos are hot and sometimes they're not. It just, you got to try one. And if you need a little extra spice, add a little red pepper here. You can add a little garlic, you can add a little onion, you can add bacon, add whatever you like. But the basic recipe here, the basic filling is cream cheese and cheddar cheese. Dip those in milk, roll them in flour, let them rest for a while, let that flour sogify just a little bit, get a little sticky, dip them in milk again, and then into breadcrumbs. Here into the deep fryer. Now, because the jalapenos have been par-cooked a little bit and there's nothing really raw in this dish, the cream cheese and the cheddar cheese don't really need to be cooked. We're really just browning these up and getting the outside a little bit crispy. There's not a whole lot of long cooking to be done here. These things are ready in about 3 to 4 minutes. And I like to do a big tray of these, and I'll eat a couple. And what I do is put the rest in Ziploc bags and put them in the freezer. And occasionally when I'm watching sports, take out a bag of these and cook 2 or 3, and they're absolutely delicious. So we're often cooking here. Let's do some hand-cut French fries. I've done several batches of the fries. Back when the first unit conked out, I had kind of done a nice video on really cutting up some russets, soaking those overnight, rinsing those. I dry them, I get a little cornstarch on there, and then I double fry the French fries. So one thing I really do like about the Chefman unit like this, it has an adjustable thermostat. When you want to par-cook your fries or double cook your fries, what I do is cook them once, the first initial frying at a lower temperature, somewhere around 340, maybe 350. And what I do is cook those 6 to 8 minutes, depending on how thickly I have cut my fries. And what that does, it kind of gives the fries a little extra time so that some heat can transfer to the middle of the fry, get that potato in the middle cooked and done. And then what I do is take those fries out and turn them out and let them rest. At least 10 minutes or so, you can let them rest for a little while. And while those are resting, I can do a second batch of fries. Very important to do it this way. You can get a little assembly line going if you have a bunch of people over and you're cooking a bunch of fries. After those fries have rested for a while, what I do is take the thermostat and turn it all the way up to 375, let that oil heat up. Then I'm gonna put these back in the basket and back in the fryer for a second frying. And what this second frying does is kind of add that color and texture and crunch to the outside of the fry. You gotta be on your game here and pay attention because they can go from kind of golden to overdone pretty quickly, but just check them. Take them out when they are done to your liking and salt them immediately. And here with a little homemade Utah fry sauce, absolutely fantastic fries. As for the Chefman though, when I was cooking these fries, I noticed a couple of problems with the lid and the way the basket and everything works. On the lid, there are 6 slots on the front of the fryer. And I think they may sell different basket configurations depending how you buy this fryer. This has the one bigger basket. They may sell a version with 2 smaller baskets. And I think these slots on the left and right sides are for the handles if you had a different basket configuration. The problem with that is that steam comes out through these vents here. When I reached my hand up to remove the lid, it went through that hot steam, and I learned immediately, just like touching a hot stove, sticking your hand in hot steam, don't do that. Second, the unit has this little filter which goes in the top of the unit here, and then a little filter cover. That is supposedly to maybe trap some odors and trap a little bit of that steam. I found that with the open holes, open slots on the front of the machine, really no air and no steam went up through the filter here. This thing essentially didn't do anything. It's kind of a nice idea, nice to have, but if you have kind of restricted airflow over these vents and open airflow on these vents, the steam tends to come out here and really not go up through that filter at all. So nice idea, but it really didn't add anything. So the solution which I came up with pretty much immediately is to use a mitt when removing the lid, when doing any kind of frying that's putting out a lot of steam. However, I note that on other fryers I have, notably those t-fals, either the Easy Clean or that odorless model, I don't have to do that. So you have to be a little bit more careful with this Chefman fryer. Now, as far as capacity, I thought the capacity on this 4.5 quart fryer pretty doggone good. I can get a lot of fries in there. Now, another little nitpick here is that when I look down inside the unit, these 2 temperature probe wires, there doesn't seem to be much wiggle room or slack there. They're rigid, so the slack is not exactly the right term. But when I put the basket down in, it seems like the basket is very close, if not touching, those temperature probe wires. I don't get that in my other fryers. I think they could use a little bit more material there. Now, how about some beer-battered onion rings? Really simple recipe here. What we're going to do is take 1 cup of flour and 1 cup of beer and some salt and pepper, and you can shake in other spices as you like, either red pepper or garlic if you like. Mix that up and set it aside and let it rest for 15 minutes or so. A bonus to making these beer-battered onion rings, some people are going to note that 1 cup of beer is 8 ounces. Most beers are 12 ounces, so you get an extra 1/3 of a can of beer to kind of sip on while you're making the rest of the recipe. What you want to do is slice up an onion into onion ring size slices, however thick you like those. You want to flour those, get your oil heating up, and once the oil is ready, you want to set up a little assembly line. There's going to be some wet batter here, and there can be some dripping, so you want to use some trays or else set it up so that you don't make too much of a mess. Also, some frying advice here. With a beer-battered onion ring or any food with a wetter type batter, don't place those in the basket first and then lower the basket into the fryer. What you want to do is either lower the basket into the oil first or just go without a basket at all. Take some tongs, dip those onion rings in the batter, and then lay those out into the oil. And the reason to do this is that if you have a wetter batter and put a food in the basket and then lower it into the oil, that wet batter will fuse to the basket and your food will be stuck like a duck. And let those fry up until they're golden, and wow! Homemade, hand-dipped, beer-battered onion rings. A quick frying tip here is that when you fry, you can reuse your oil several times. For French fries, for quote-unquote clean foods that don't leave a lot of gunk or impart a lot of flavor or odor to the oil, you can take that oil, once it's cooled down, filter it back into its original container and save that and reuse it. French fries, I can usually get at least 5 fryings out of a batch of oil. When that oil is ready, kind of getting near the end of its life, that's when I use it for things like onion rings, because they're going to impart some flavor and kind of aroma to that oil. You don't want to cook donuts after cooking your onion rings. So save your oil, reuse it, and when it's getting towards the end of its useful life, then use it for your more flavorful type foods like onion rings. Now, on my list of things to do is to put up full in-depth recipe videos for some of these foods we're cooking. I will get around to that eventually. This here, these chicken tenders, this is kind of optimized for a pack of Costco pre-cut chicken tenderloins. We buy these things, I think they come in 6 packages to an overall pack. And we'll freeze them and then pull them out of the freezer and then make fresh chicken tenders for my little son. I use a couple of cups of buttermilk, some salt, and some hot sauce. Get those chicken tenders in there, and I like to let them soak at least 2 hours or so. If it's lunchtime and you think, well, I want to have some chicken tenders for dinner, as long as you get those things in there and kind of pre-soak them by 1 or 2 o'clock, you're ready to cook at 5, 6 or so. And I mix up some flour with some salt and some pepper. And I pull the chicken tenders out, shake off as much of that buttermilk as possible, and roll those in the flour. Let them rest. In the meantime, I've got my Chefman heating up. And again here, because this batter, these hand-dipped chicken tenders, the batter can be a little bit sticky. I am not going to put these in the basket first. I'm going to lay them out in the oil just because I don't want them to fuse to the basket. And here's another instance when I really like having an adjustable thermostat. Some fryers, especially cheaper fryers, you plug them in and they're on at one temperature and it's usually pretty high. That often does not work well for cooking raw chicken. Raw chicken you want to cook at a little bit lower temperature, maybe anywhere 330, 40, 50, 60, somewhere around there, not up at 375 or 380. And the reason for that is you want to give the chicken time to cook in its interior, get up to temperature before the outside is done. If you cook it at too high of a temperature, you're going to get a crunchy, done exterior before the interior has had time to cook, and you don't want that with raw chicken. So I find that somewhere around 350 and 3 or 4 minutes or so works really well for these hand-breaded chicken tenders. Of course, I take them out and tempt them with a thermometer, double check that they're done, and let's see what the little guy thinks about them. What do you think about the chicken? Thank you, nice.
Like it.
As a home cooking dad, if my 4-year-old likes my cooking and eats all of his food, to me that's more important than a Michelin star. And for the grand finale, let's go with some Mancave style chicken wings. Real deal chicken wings here, like you might get in a sports bar. You know, thinking back in the day when I was 22, 23 years old, used to love going out and having a few beers and getting some chicken wings and watching sports at a sports bar. And everybody has this idea. Someday I want to own a sports bar. I want to start a microbrewery. And then you grow up and get a little bit older and you realize, I don't want to deal with a bunch of stinking drunks every day. That's a terrible idea for something to do with your money. But we all still like to turn our basements into man caves. And man caves are great. Once you've got a couch and a big screen TV and a beer fridge, everything else is kind of nice to have. One of the things I like to have in mine is a deep fryer, because I can have the guys over watch sports and I can make real deal sports bar style chicken wings. And I had no idea of this growing up. It seemed like chicken wings were something I would never be able to cook. Turns out they are fantastically simple and very easy. Maybe one of the easiest things you can make in a deep fryer. All you do is get your oil hot and put your chicken wings in. That's it. Let them fry up until they are done. Chicken wings, you want them to be at least 170 internally. And once they are up to temperature, just continue to cook those until they are the color and texture and kind of crunch, if you will, that you like. And then I put them in a bowl and toss them either with some Frank's Red Hot with a little bit of butter or some Frank's Red Hot wing sauce. Now Frank's, not a sponsor, although if you'd like to be, please do get in touch. And there are other sauces and recipes you can try, but very, very easy to make sports bar quality chicken wings at home in your man cave. Okay, so what do I think about the Chefman? We need to keep in context here that this thing costs $70. Mentally, I've been comparing it, and you've heard me mention it in the video, to that t-fal Easy Clean deep fryer. That's my favorite deep fryer. I've been recommending that for 3-4 years now. It's not a completely fair comparison because the t-fal Easy Clean is about $140. This is a $70 fryer, so not exactly apples to apples. I think if you have the money, I would get the t-fal. If you're in that kind of $70 fryer range, This is an okay choice. There's some things I like about it and some things I don't. The most important thing is it produced a bunch of delicious fried food. That's what you want out of a deep fryer. I think at this price point too, having a 4.5 quart deep fryer, that's a pretty doggone big capacity. I like that. I like the fact that it has an adjustable thermostat. On the downside though, I do not like the design of the lid. I don't like the way that the steam flows out of the food up through these vent slots on the front. And I think the charcoal filter and venting back here is pretty much worthless. It doesn't really work. It doesn't really filter out any significant amounts of steam and or odors. So I don't like the design of the lid, and I would be remiss for not pointing out that once again the first one I got was a dud. Now, are there any wider issues with quality with the Chefman, or did I just kind of have some bad luck and get a lemon? I really don't know, but I will say that the first one conked out and the second one has worked just fine. So for the delicious food and value, I kind of give it 3/4 thumbs up. I'm going to dial that back down for problems with the lid and potential quality problems and give it a thumb sideways, maybe pointing just a little bit up. Solid choice, but not the best. Now, if you do decide you want to get one of these fryers or research other fryers you might like, a nice thing to do is use the affiliate shopping links below. I buy all the equipment and gear for the reviews around here with my own money. So if you go through the affiliate links, it does help to offset that a little bit and it's greatly appreciated. Leave your questions, comments, and feedback below. Thank you for watching. See you again next time on Uncle Scott's Kitchen.